Hello everybody. Welcome to the year 2025, the first episode of the new year. It's episode 5 overall of this newish podcast. I've done maybe one a month for the last few months, which is, a pretty fair distance between them, but I like to make sure for these that I have a lot to talk about. And that I can keep going to fill up at least an hour, so it's at least worth tuning in. But, and if you're not, those of you who normally would listen to this straight on Spreaker, which is my platform that I use to send this to Spotify and to wherever, they had a live option that they've had for years, for a long time, where you could listen on the platform live. And then you'd listen to the syndicated version, I suppose, on everywhere else, all the various other podcast things. And apparently they don't do that anymore. It told me several times that option is no longer available. And that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's crazy that they don't support live podcasting anymore. But, whatever, we're recording it. I'm going to send it out to the various places it needs to go to. And you'll hear it one way or the other. No big deal. But 2025, it's crazy. You know what? When I think about, and this is really a small thing. It seems like a big thing, but it's really a small thing. But because it seems like a big thing, we're going to talk about it for a minute. I know this back and forth. Bear with me here. I was born in the 80s, early 80s, very early 80s, the first half of the 80s. So I've lived through the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s, and now the 2020s. And it's a weird feeling to me, almost. It's a weird feeling to be 2025. Because when I was younger, 2000 felt like something special. Like, it was a big deal, the year 2000. It was a big thing. You had the Y2K computer scare. You had all these prophetic people doing, like, the end of the world was going to be the year 2000. And there were songs about it, and there were movies about it. All this stuff, and then it was just another year. And things continued. And then 2001 seemed like, that should be a big deal too, because it's 2001. It should be real symbolic, and it was just another year. I mean, I know some things happened, like you had the 9/11 attacks happened, of course, so I don't want to discount it as just another year where nothing happened. Of course, significant things happen every year. But it wasn't the year itself that was the thing, The world didn't suddenly change all on its own just because the clock changed. Other events had to happen within the bounds of the year. You know what I mean? 2012 was supposed to be the Mayan calendar reset, where everything was supposed to go crazy and switch over. Nothing really happened there. So, I don't know. It's a weird feeling, kind of. I kind of wonder how people who were born in, like, the 1950s felt about the year 2000. Was it even a bigger deal to them than it was to me as a kid? Because for me, it only took roughly 20-some years to get from the 80s to the 2000s. But for them, it's like 50 years. All of their life was before then, and then they hit that when they're starting to get into their older period, and it's got to be a weird feeling. I don't know. I don't know what that has to do with anything. But it is 2025. If you're into the whole numerology thing like I am, then 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 5 is 9. And 9 is my number. Everybody has a number. Like your name, all the letters in your name can be distilled down to single-digit numbers, and they can be added together and distilled down into another single-digit number. And while I don't put 100% stock into all this kind of stuff, it is interesting to see if people match the qualities that their numbers are supposed to have. And my number that my name comes down to is 9. So when I have a year that's 9, I feel pretty good about it. I feel like, oh yeah, this is my time. It's my time to shine. You know what I mean? Or my time to suck in all the light like a deep, dark shadow that takes everything and doesn't give anything out. I don't know. Angsty, I guess. Angsty. The angst is flowing. But yeah, 2025 should be a good year. What have I been doing since the last time I talked to people? We went through the holidays. We didn't celebrate the Christmas holiday here because we don't do that. We didn't celebrate Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or any of that kind of stuff because we just don't do that. My family, the other members of my family, went down to the other half of the relatives because you've got my half and you've got her half and of the family trees. So they went down there on Christmas Eve to spend the afternoon during the day there, and I stayed home because I don't really like to travel in weather like that because it's usually cold, and I just don't do the whole Christmas thing. Like, it just makes me nervous. Not nervous, I guess. I don't know what it is. I don't care for it. I don't like any of the Christmas stuff. I don't go out and yell at people about it. Like, I don't go and be like, "You're some kind of foolish person for celebrating the Christmas." I don't do that. I'm not that bad of a person. I don't go yelling at people. I don't tell other people they shouldn't celebrate, or that they're wasting their money or their time or whatever. I don't say that because that's their choice. Those people can do whatever they want. That's not up to me. So they do that, and I choose to stay home. And what I did, of course, I did a lot of work around the house. I did a game stream. And I listened to the Marilyn Manson album from 1999 called Hollywood, which it was new that year. It came out in 99, I believe, or maybe for 2000. It was the first and only album from Marilyn Manson that my parents agreed to get for me when I put it on my Christmas list. Because back then I was still doing Christmas. I was still a kid. I was a teenager, young teenager. And I had it on my list that I wanted that album. It was new. I was into it. And they got it for me, reluctantly, because they didn't agree with any of the music, because they're a bit more religious, of course. And which, isn't saying anything bad about them. It's just how they were. And they didn't like it much. They didn't like his image or anything about him. But they said, you know what, we thought if we don't get it for you, you'll just take your Christmas money or whatever else you get from other relatives and you'll just buy it for yourself anyway. So here it is. Just don't play it real loud in the house because we don't want to listen to it. So I listened to that on Christmas Day up in my room on my own private little boom box. I listened to Hollywood by Marilyn Manson. And I have listened to it in full, uninterrupted, every year since. It is the only tradition I have for that holiday season. And so I did. I listened to it for this past Christmas. And I feel good about it. So I did that. I don't stay up to watch. Do they even do that anymore? Do they have the ball drop in New York City? I didn't read anything about it in any of the news coming up. I know people were going to New York still because that's the thing. You go to big cities and you go party and whatever. I never did any of that kind of stuff, and I didn't do it this year. But I didn't read anything specifically about watch the ball drop on channel blah blah blah, and I didn't hear anything about it. So do they still do that when it hits midnight? I don't know. I didn't stay up for any of that. I was doing a game stream, and I commemorated it with a drink, because I always do. I got a drink right now. Let me take a sip of it. And So I was playing game streams. I did do the whole, I did do the pork and sauerkraut thing. Because I'm working on my diet. Right? I'm working on my diet. Because over the past 10 years or so, since my daughter was born, and since we had the virus and everybody was stuck doing whatever, and I got into DoorDash and a bunch of other unhealthy things, I've put on some weight, right? I mean, that happens. But I found out recently that I've also been losing weight everywhere except for my gut. Okay? I know I was just talking about New Year's, and this is a side tangent from that, but this all ties together, okay? So follow along. Follow along. My gut, I always feel kind of bloated, kind of oversized in my gut, and people say, oh, that's just a beer guts because you drink and whatever. And I'm sure that has something to do with it, but at the same time, I've done some things where I try to eat less, or I try to eat different, and I try whatever, and it doesn't seem to make a big difference. Like, I feel bloated rather than feel like I'm a fat guy. And I kind of am a fat guy now, but that's just because, and I'm not saying that in a negative, like, oh, fat guy, sir. I'm just saying I was always classically a real thin kind of person. That was my body type. And I noticed that while around my waist, my pants were getting looser, because I was losing weight overall, my stomach just always looked like it was bigger. And it was because it was bloated, and I was uncomfortable. It's like gastrointestinal buildup and things, you know, all kinds of weird, gross stuff. And I've been working on ways to try to combat that. And I found out that the most likely suspect for all that is an overworked liver. Because I like to drink. Column A leads to column B. This happens, and then, you know, consequences of your actions, right? Now, a logical person would say, well, you should just not drink so much. And I would say, yes, but I enjoy drinking quite a lot. And the logical person would then say, you have a drinking problem. And I would say, granted, but no, I do probably drink more than I should. And I can logically look at that. I can look at myself and be like, that's a problem. That's an issue. But I also know that if I run out of alcohol, I'm not going to go out and beg people for money for a drink. I'm not going to go to the gas station and be begging for change. I'm not going to look through my couch for change. If I don't have any money for alcohol, I don't have any money for alcohol. That's just how it is. So I'll go without. I will go without. A person with a serious problem can't go without. They have to have it. And as much as I enjoy it, I've had to go without a lot over the last several months. And so that's fine. But as a consequence, because I do like to drink, my liver is working harder than it should. I'm not in like a danger zone where I don't have liver failure or anything like that. I'm not in danger of hospitalization. So anybody out there thinking that, oh man, he's talking about all these health problems, he's going to kill himself. Please, YouTube, don't take that down. I'm not saying that as a whatever, you know. But disclaimer. But no, I'm working on ways to balance my vices and my eating without just not eating, because starving yourself is not the answer to losing weight. I'm not going to do that. I get hungry. If I don't eat in a day, I get lightheaded, I get grouchy, I get, you know, in a bad mood. I get a little hypoglycemic, you know. I don't have diabetes, but it does run in the family, and I have if I were to just do that all the time, I might start getting diabetic. It's a good thing I'm not into sweets, because then I probably would develop that kind of thing. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do the insulin thing. It's expensive. It takes time to inject and all that other kind of stuff. I don't want to do that. And I don't want to look down on anybody that has to do that. I mean, it's a tough life, and you're a tough person for having to do that. I applaud you. I applaud anybody out there who's got diabetes and manages it. You know, because I don't want to do it. I think I would manage it very poorly. So I applaud anybody who does manage it very well. You're doing a great job. Keep it up. So I have to eat. You know, I got to eat in a day. So what do I do in that case? If I don't want to quit drinking and I don't want to just starve myself, what do? I have to pick and choose the foods that I eat better. I have to not eat the same things that I was eating. And that doesn't mean going on a strict, like, lettuce diet and weird stuff like that. It just means changing up what you eat so that what you eat is more helpful to your body. So I have a lot of sauerkraut. Not every single day, because nobody wants to eat a sauerkraut every single day of their life. It's good, but I don't want to eat it all the time. But I do get it fairly often now because it's good for the liver. Cabbage is good for the liver, right? And a few other things. So anyway, I had that anyway. Looping back around to New Year's, I had the sauerkraut in the house. And my daughter had never had sauerkraut yet. It was one of those things that she'd never tried. We've slowly been easing her into trying different things now that she's the big 10, the big 10 years old. We figure, you know, she's open to trying different foods. So she was like, oh, I want to try sauerkraut. So I let her try some, and she was like, oh, that's actually pretty good. It's kind of like pickles. I'm kind of like, yeah, the process is kind of similar. It's not exactly the same, but it is similar. And she likes cabbage as it is. So I said, why don't we have a traditional New Year's Eve dinner? Or you have the pork and sauerkraut. But she doesn't eat pork. She's currently being raised meat-free, and it's her choice right now that she wants to be meat-free. It's not something anybody has forced on her. When she was a baby, we did it that way because that's what her mother wanted until she was old enough to decide for herself. And she's not malnourished. She's got strong bones. She's got strong muscles. You know, she's okay. Anybody out there thinking, that's just cruel to do to your child? It's not really. You just have to pick the right protein sources. You don't just feed them all just straight up vegetables all the time. You have to make sure you find alternate protein sources. And there are a lot of non-meat protein sources out there that aren't necessarily soy and tofu stuff, right? She likes that, but she also has other things that she can eat. Okay? It's all fine. She's fine. If anybody shows up my door from like Child Protective Services wanting to check her out, I'm going to know that one of you listeners out there was mad at me about it, and I'm going to be grumpy with you because it's not going to happen. But I got her meatless kielbases, which they make, and you might think, oh, those sound gross. They're not that bad. Honestly, they don't taste like a real kielbasa. I'll say that, because I got myself kielbases. But I made her own, which she ate and she enjoyed, and then I made mine, and that was fun. So we did the pork and sauerkraut thing for New Year's Eve. And that was the most we did to acknowledge the whole thing. Because we don't get into that kind of stuff. The biggest things that people celebrate around here are birthdays. Which I try not to get too grumpy about it, except about my own. Because I don't want people to celebrate mine because I don't care. I'm not interested. I just want to have a nice, normal day. I'll keep track of how old I am because I have to, because you have to keep track for various things. But it's not a big deal for me. It's not a big deal. But New Year's. It's 2025. Good stuff going on into the future, right? So that's enough about me. Let's talk about what's going on in the world today. And you'll notice that in the title, of this episode, if you pay attention to such things, you'll notice that the title begins with a mild global collapse. Because it is kind of mild, but there is a bit of a collapse going on. There's a lot of stuff falling apart out in the world right now. France's government, the government of France, fell apart. There was like a vote of no confidence or something or other. No, that was in Germany. Germany had a vote of no confidence, and their government collapsed. But France's government had also collapsed because they couldn't agree on... They were deadlocked on a specific vote for certain parties or something like that. And so they fell apart. So they're having snap elections. So you've got France in turmoil. You've got Germany in turmoil. Syria was the big one. We talked about this on the on my other show, This Uncanny Earth, which is on YouTube. Please look it up. But we did two episodes about Syria and the collapse of the country, and that's a pretty astounding thing. Because Syria weathered a lot. Yes, they were under a brutal dictatorship. I'm not going to even mince words about that. The guy, Assad, was a bad dude. But he had also prevented the country from being taken over by Islamic State. Which the Islamic State are very, very bad guys. They're much worse. Like the Taliban is ridiculously bad. Has anybody been following the latest news on Afghanistan? How they don't want buildings where women are going to be to have windows? They want any new buildings, like homes or anything where there's going to be a woman visible from outside. They don't want any windows. Because it would lead to obscene things. I'm not making that up. That's not some conspiracy thing. That's not a joke. That's what they said. They already don't allow women in schools past what would be the 6th grade. So beyond the most basic education, they've stopped allowing women in schools. They don't want foreign aid workers, like people from United Nations or from Doctors Without Borders or any of those other places. They don't want any of those organizations who do work in the country, trying to help the people and help the country. They don't want them to have any women on their team. They're not allowed to have women employed on their teams. Like, it's ridiculously bad in Afghanistan right now. And Syria was kept from the worst of that kind of stuff, despite the fact that they had a brutal dictator in charge. And I'm not excusing the stuff that he did. I'm not excusing that. I'm just saying that it stopped the various other hardline extremists from doing what they're doing in the other countries over there. And now he's gone. Now he's in Russia. He escaped to Russia. And his government collapsed, and rebel factions moved in and took over everything. And the people leading his rebel factions are people who worked in high positions in Al-Qaeda. So they're 100% on board with the kind of stuff that's going on in Afghanistan. They're not saying so right now because they're trying to get sympathy from the rest of the world. But, and they're rebels who were funded by the Obama administration, and I'm not taking a political side here. I'm not saying that the Bush side would have done better, or that the Trump side would have done better, or that the Biden side would have done better, or anything. I'm just stating the fact that in 2011, the Obama administration was funding and giving weapons to the rebels to fight back as they said, against the Islamic State. And all of this has led to the collapse of the country. So you've got Syria, you've got Yemen falling apart, you've got the battle between Israel and Palestine, you've got France collapsing, you've got Germany collapsing, Canada, of all places, the Trudeau government is unraveling by the day. There are rumors that Trudeau is going to resign. And he was like this big, he's a force for change. We're going to do all this progressive stuff and this and that. And now he's one of the least liked people in the country. It's crazy. It is a crazy time in the world right now. And we've got the new upcoming second edition of the Trump administration coming up. And who knows where that's going to go. I don't want to make a judgment right off the bat. I mean, I'm hoping that some people learned their lesson from the last time, and maybe things will be a little bit different this time around, because there were some good things that were happening and there were some bad things that were happening. I had things that I liked about it, and I had things that I disliked about it. Same as with the Obama administration, same as with the Bush administration. The Biden administration I didn't like anything about. Not a single thing. Nothing about that was helpful to me in the least. As just a middle-class person here in the United States, I didn't benefit one bit from the Biden administration. And I'm not... That didn't make me vote any particular way. I'm not saying that pushed my vote in a particular direction, because I didn't vote for either of the guys. You can take that the way you want. I didn't vote for either one of them. But I'm hoping maybe, despite all the various things going around, all the information, misinformation, disinformation, whatever that's flying around in the news and online, I hope something good is going to happen for the next 4 years. I hope. I don't know. We've got a Republican near supermajority. And I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just saying that's what we have. The House is a full majority. The Senate is a minimum majority. It's not a majority where they can actually pass things unopposed. You have to have 60 votes to pass bills in the Senate. And Republicans have 53 seats. So they have to get 7 folks from the other side or the middle, from Democrats or independents, to help them pass things so it doesn't get filibustered. So we'll see how things go. I don't know. I see a lot of dysfunction in the near future, at the very least, if not the distant future. But I can hope. I can hope things will be better than that. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff like going down in the world today. It's kind of a weird time to be alive. But what else do we have to talk about? Let me look at my notes, because I made notes. Well, let's keep talking about the world right now, because there's a lot of things going on. There's things going on in my local area here that are kind of concerning. Like, we have a couple of protest movements going on against the local police force. And there's a lot of talk that the local police here in my town, in this part of Ohio, have done some multiple examples of police brutality and favoritism and that kind of stuff. And I don't know, I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing a lot of the people complaining as people who got busted for minor offenses, like little things, like maybe a traffic pullover, or like a little bit of a certain amount of drugs that they shouldn't have had, which is less of a problem now because Ohio legalized certain things recreationally and medicinally. But a lot of the people complaining I've noticed are people who have records already. Now, are those records deserved? Did they do the things that they were accused of doing? Well, they have all that stuff on their record, so the local government says that they did. That doesn't mean necessarily that they're always guilty, even though they might have been labeled guilty by a court. I'm not going to instantly assume that every person with a guilty verdict is a guilty person. Things happen once in a while, you know what I mean? But the pattern among the people with the complaints is a lot of them are the rabble-rousing type, who are out to complain because they just have a complaint, not because it's legitimate necessarily, but they were doing something that they shouldn't have, and they got caught, and they're mad about it now. So, and I know that's not every single case. I'm not trying to lump everybody into the same, well, if you got busted, then you shouldn't complain because it's your own fault for doing what you were doing. Because not everybody was actually doing what they were accused of. I get it. I'm not a black and white absolutist as far as this stuff goes, you know? There's gray areas, and there's areas where definitely you might have picked a police officer who's in a bad mood, who's looking to make an example out of somebody, because that does happen. I'm not going to say it doesn't. It does happen. You get bad people in every position. You get bad people doing DoorDash. You get bad people doing police work. You get bad people in hospitals and things like that. It's just how it goes. And depending on the environment will depend on if they can get away with doing bad things. Okay? So there's that going on. There is that going on. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with all that. It's just something that I've noticed around here, and I hope it gets better. Because we go through swells and troughs, you could say, of stuff going on that's good and stuff going on that's bad in the neighborhoods. And it's been a tough time around here for me. I haven't had a lot of time to pay attention to other people's stuff going on, because I've had a lot going on around here. We've gone through job changes. We had our water heater go out, not go out. The water heater was leaking, and it started leaking a couple of months ago. In a really inconvenient time. We did not have near enough money to deal with a new water heater. So we were turning it off when we weren't using hot water. We were washing the dishes in cold water using a lot of soap. Turning it on for showers and things, and then the basement was getting full of water. I wouldn't say it was a nightmare, but it was not the most fun time of my life. It was not as bad as when the utility sink down in the basement was filling up with slop from other houses. That was an ongoing... that was a saga. But we fixed that. We finally managed to put a stop to that. We had to do the right thing finally, because we tried so many different things to get it to fix, and we thought it was just blocked lines and everything, and it ended up we needed a special backflow valve that would keep things from backing up if other houses had issues, because the sewers around here are crap. To be perfectly honest, they're crap, and they're filled with crap, and they were sending crap into my house, and it was the most disgusting point of my life ever, and I don't even want to think about it anymore. But we fixed that, so this wasn't that bad. This wasn't that bad, but it was flooding the basement constantly with a thin layer of water that would dry it. The good thing was, on the positive side, trying to look on the positive side, was that since it's winter and the furnace is running, that the furnace would run and the warm air would dry up the water in the basement daily. But you would just fill it up again every time you needed hot water. But we got the hot water tank replaced at great expense because they're not cheap. And my car battery had died around the same time frame. So, and my car is an SUV, so it's 150 plus minimum for a battery for my car. And I didn't have that to spare. You know, I had money for groceries and for bills and things like that, but once you get down to it, I didn't have that much. So I was driving her car when she wasn't at work. Like, I'd drive it to the store and different places. But other than that, I couldn't go anywhere, couldn't do anything. Finally got that replaced today. As of this recording, I've got the new battery in the car. Because with the new jobs we've got lined up here and everything all in order that we've got, we finally have the money coming in to stabilize all this stuff. So I got the new car battery put in, and now the car runs again, and I'm feeling fantastic about that. I feel great about that. That makes me feel good. Today I've got running hot water without leaks, my basement's dry, and my car starts. I'm pleased. I'm pleased. Things are good. Things are good. And that's the other thing, too. I'm at a point, yeah, sure, let's go off on another tangent here. Let's go off on another tangent. Because why not? Because that's what I do. I like to go on tangents. I'm at a point where I'm tired of just sitting around and being mad about stuff. Because I'm naturally, because of whatever chemistry is going on in my brain, ever since I was a kid, I have always been an angry person. I haven't always been shouty and violent and aggressive. And when I say violent, I don't mean I go out and attack people or fight people. But just my way of when I was angry would be to just to hit something, like a counter or a cupboard or throw a book or do something, do something physical when I'm angry. Because I got this angry energy, which is not healthy. It isn't. I'm not going to excuse that at all. It's poor behavior. But I've always had that since I was a kid. I've always just had this lash out kind of temperament. And I got to the point a while back where I was like, I don't want to do that. I'm tired of feeling like that. You know, I just don't want to be that person. And I've put in a lot of, I don't know if it was just effort or just some extra willpower in the right place, but I've redirected some of those feelings in ways where they don't instantly make me ramped up and blood boiling and I'm kind of like, "Rrr." I still get irritated by stuff. I still get annoyed by things. There's a person in Tacoma, Washington who's really under my skin these days, but she's really a non-entity. She's a worthless individual, to be honest. And I don't want to be an angry person so much. I think there's a point where you have to be angry about things. If there's an injustice going on, you have every right to be angry. If somebody's doing something to your family, you should be angry. You have every right to be angry. And anger is a worthwhile and fair emotion to have. Don't let anybody tell you any differently, that you don't ever have any right to be angry about things. No, sometimes you have every right to be angry, and you should be angry. But there was a lot of points where I was just angry for no reason. I would just wake up angry. And nothing. And now I don't do that anymore. I feel pretty good, to be honest. I'm very much at peace with a lot of things. I'm very chill about a lot of things. I feel so much better about things in my life than I did because I've just been like, you know what? I'm not going to be irritated about it. Is it annoying? Sure. Will it make a difference if I rant and rave about it? No. Can I do things that will change the situation? Sure. Let's do them. And that's it. If I can do something about it, I do. If I can't, I don't. I stop worrying about it. And I feel better. I feel pretty good. And I'm not sure what led to that exact tangent. I don't know. Maybe it was because of all the things that finally got fixed in the house. But if I was still in my anger phase, I would not have been able to get that hot water tank put in as easy as we did. I would not have been able to just go out today, take the new car battery, put it in, and feel good about it. I'd have been mad because I didn't have the right tools. I'd have been mad because it took longer than I wanted it to. I'd been mad because I'd been out in the cold, in the snow. I'd have been mad. But I wasn't mad today. I was just kind of like, oh, these things are all a little bit irritating, but they're no big deal. I got it done, and it's done. And I feel pretty good. I feel pretty good about it. So let's move on from that deeply sensitive topic. Let's move on to the last big thing that I wanted to talk about, which has a lot to do with the state of the gaming landscape right now. It's a weird space to be in. If you're just a person who plays games, you might not have noticed what's going on. I'm a person who likes to look up news and look up different things about games. To my detriment, I think, because there's a lot of stuff going on that I honestly do not care about. But now I'm really well informed about it, and I kind of feel like none of this is really helpful. But there's been a game I've been playing, and I think it's late enough in the show that YouTube isn't going to kick me off if I say the title. But I've been playing the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League game. If I'd have mentioned it earlier in the episode, YouTube would have flagged it because their algorithm is really aggressive towards that S word, not squad, but the first one. And I get it. I get why. It's a sensitive topic outside of this context. But I've been playing that game because during the holiday sales, it got down to like $5 for the Super Deluxe Everything Included edition, which was normally like $80 or more, something like that. And I hadn't really been super interested, but I was like, at that price, I might as well give it a try. It can't be that bad. Because people have been mad about it for a while. There's multiple reasons why people are mad. Some of them are legitimate, and some of them are kind of like, whatever, it's really no big deal. One of the reasons people are mad, or were mad, is because of the involvement of a consultant firm of writers called Sweet Baby Inc., which is a weird name. It's a weird name. Okay, I'm not even saying anything about what they do or who's involved. It's just a weird name. I don't know. It sets off weird alarm bells in my head. But they have been accused, and I'm not taking any sides on this. I'm not saying one thing or another about it and letting people make up their own mind. You can look it up if you want. they've been accused of forcefully injecting certain philosophies and certain agendas, right? And if you look it up, you'll know what I'm talking about. And so a lot of people boycotted the game. There was all kinds of stuff on social media. There was mostly on Twitter/X about it, which I don't use, so obviously I'm not involved in that. But the result is that the game was supposed to have like 14 seasons of content, because in the game, the main enemy, if you know anything about the DC Comics universe, the main enemy is Brainiac, right? And he's got 13 different versions of himself, with his mind spread across all of them, like a hive mind kind of thing, in multiple universes. So the plan was to have the game run for 14 seasons of content, which is roughly 14 years. Maybe a little bit less, depending on how quickly they put the seasons out. Where each season had a different new playable character that you could add to the team. And you go to the multiple universes and you fight each Brainiac before the final overall series is complete. They are at season 4 right now, right? And they have announced that the game is ending. What that means is they're not going to add any more seasons. They're not going to do any more updates with more content. They're not going to do anything else with it. They're going to let it stay online for now so that you can still play online with friends. But they're basically done with it. The game is over. Because the player counts were so low from the boycott that they've lost a massive amount of money from it. It was such a colossal failure from a financial perspective that they just gave up on it. And I'll tell you, there are legitimate reasons to have problems with this game. I'm going to get into them. The things I like, the gameplay itself is fun. You move around the city in various ways depending on what character you're currently playing as. If you're playing as Deadshot, which is the character that I usually play as, you have a jetpack, and so you can fly around, which I found was the easiest way to get around for my personal playstyle. So you fly around and you look for missions and you fight the bad guys and do that kind of stuff. The fighting is fun. Some of it can be challenging, but the fighting is fun. The moving around the city is fun. The collectibles are okay. It does get repetitive, especially at the end. Once you've beaten the main story and you're doing the seasonal stuff, it's kind of the same thing over and over, and your characters just get stronger and stronger, which is typical of most online-centric kind of games like this. But it is fun. I'm having fun playing it. But the dialogue is really bad. The jokes fall flat. A lot of times they're not funny. I find it really difficult to empathize with any of the characters. Very few people are likable in this game, no matter how hard the game tries. Very few people are likable. And I know the whole premise is that they're villains, that now they have to save the planet, but they're still villains, so you're not really supposed to like them, but you should want to like them because you're playing them in the game. If you want to keep playing the game, you should like the characters that you're playing as, right? But they're just not in this context, in this environment, they're just not likable. And several of the characters that have been brought forward from previous games, because it's supposed to be part of the same major universe as Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, and Arkham Knight. The personalities are different. They're not exactly the same. And you can say, oh, maybe they've grown as characters. Well, a lot of times it doesn't seem like they have. It seems like they're just copies of a copy. right? And the dialogue that is written for them, it's not great. It's not great. And so the overall story suffers from that because the dialogue's not great. And the voice actors, there's some veteran voice actors involved in this, and this is a barely passable job. These people are basically, it sounds like they're doing this for a paycheck. It doesn't sound like they put a whole lot of heart into it, which is a shame, because the whole game just falls flat at that point. All you have left is just flying around and fighting enemies, arcade style, which is fun, but does it have staying power? I don't know. Would I rate the game really highly? No. I would not say it's one of the best games of the year at all. A lot of people call it the worst game of 2024. Or at least one of the worst. There was another one, Concord, I think it was. Dustborn was really bad, apparently. I didn't play that. Concord was a Sony game, so I didn't get to play it because I don't have a PlayStation 5, and that one already got turned off, to be honest. Like, that was an online battle game, and not only did they stop supporting it, but they actually turned off the servers. That one's over completely. It did so badly. Within 2 weeks. It was only out for like 2 weeks, and it collapsed. And the new Dragon Age game is not looking great either. It's got all these supposedly great reviews from Rolling Stone and everywhere else. But the player reviews, they say a lot. I don't know. It's a weird gaming time right now. All of the biggest games that are supposed to be like the best games you could get right now, 2/3 of them are selling really poorly and have really bad reviews from players. And their studios are getting people laid off that they're losing so much money. They're losing, like the new Assassin's Creed game that's coming out. It's getting hit hard already for a lot of various reasons. And some other games are getting kind of caught in the crossfire. I've been playing the Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. I've been playing that game. It came out on Game Pass for Xbox, because that's my console. And I like it. It's fun. It's got its problems, but I like it. It's fun. But they have... And I don't want people to get irritated with me about it, but you know what? Whatever. I honestly don't care at the end of the day. I'm not trying to make people angry with this stuff, but I'm also not trying to placate people. When the game was first coming out, before it did release, there was a lot of talk that it was going to be quote-unquote a woke game. And I had to wonder, because how are you going to do that with Indiana Jones? It's never been that kind of a style in the movies or anything. And when I'm playing it, there is one character who could be a lesbian character. Because she likes women. Oh no. Is that woke? I don't know. I don't care. What difference does it make? They talk about it in such a subtle way that it's not even like a major focus of conversation. They didn't revolve the game around it. They didn't like make it some big deal. It's just, oh yeah, this character enjoys the company of the same gender. Who cares? It's not a big deal. They didn't make a big deal out of it. And frequently in the game, when he's talking about people, when Indiana Jones is talking about people that he doesn't really know, he'll use the term they instead of he or she. Oh no. Like, it's no big deal. It's no big deal. But you get the people who are like, oh, it's the woke nonsense because it's the pronouns. And I'm like, it doesn't detract from the game. It doesn't detract from the subject matter. If something like that comes in and it's blatantly in a way that it distracts from the subject matter, okay, that's kind of annoying. But if it's just in there just as it is, you have to pay attention to notice it, for one. And for another, you have to go out of your way to be annoyed about it. Right? It's not a big deal. It isn't. I don't know. They've got a lot of that kind of stuff in the Suicide Squad game. And so people are obviously upset about that. And I don't care. I could care. It's not a big deal for me. I'm secure in who I am as a person with whatever gender and sexuality I prefer. I don't have any issues with anything. I know what I'm into. I know what I'm not into. And that's where it ends. That's where it ends for me. I don't care what other people are doing. You know, I just don't. It's not an area that bothers me. And if there's something like, if there's a game where that's the central concept, where people are trying to discover who they are and their sexuality, whatever, I'm not really into that, so I just won't play those games. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal to me. Those games clearly aren't designed for me, and that's not a big deal. Just don't play them. And this stuff, yeah, it's in Suicide Squad, but I don't pay attention to it because it doesn't apply to me. Who cares? It's not the central concept. Same thing with Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. It's got these subtle little things. Back when Mass Effect Andromeda came out, there was apparently a transgender character, and people got upset because they felt that that person was presented poorly. But I don't see how. Like, it came up in a side conversation you can have with that character. And that's the only time it came up. It wasn't something that was used in an insulting way. It wasn't something used in a way that was like, this is vitally important to the main story. It was just something mentioned in an offhand fashion, like when you were having a conversation. If you wanted to know more about this person, you could ask them about that. And that was it. But apparently it was done in an offensive manner. I don't get it. I don't know. It seemed fine to me. It didn't bother me, and it didn't... I don't know. I must be ignorant, I guess. A lot of people out there are probably going to say, you're just ignorant of the struggles of people. I guess. I don't know. I treat everybody the same. If you're not a jerk to me, personally, then I don't worry about you. If you are a jerk to me, then I'm going to treat you like you're a jerk, because you are. And that's just how it is. That's the start and the end. No other details are important. Whether you're male, female, non-binary, transgender, whatever, none of that matters to me. What matters to me is whether you're a jerk or whether you're not a jerk. And I don't care otherwise. I honestly don't. And that's the same with my games. If it's just subtle and in there and that's just how it is, if it's a natural flow of the game, I don't care. I just skip over it because it doesn't apply to me. Who cares? I don't know. But, yeah. It was on sale for $5. I had enough Xbox points to lower that to $3.50. So I spent $3.50 on it. And I don't feel bad about spending that on Kill the Justice League. It's fun for $3.50. Would I have spent the full $70 on it when it first came out? No. I'd have felt a little grouchy about that because of the way that the story is and the dialogue and those points that are the problem. None of the ideology points are an issue. But at $3.50, I don't feel like I got ripped off. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, that's pretty much all I've got for you. I'm coming up. I'm on my hour here. So, I don't know when I'm going to come up next. I never really know when the exact date of my next recording is going to be. I kind of watch the news and see what's going on in the world. So I have enough to talk about. before I go ahead and figure out that I'm going to do an episode. So who knows? But this should show up in all the various different podcast areas relatively soon, if not immediately. It'll show up on YouTube within a week or two. Sometimes I forget about them and they'll show up on YouTube in like a month. That's what happened to episode 4. It was almost like a month before I realized, hey, I didn't really ever put that up on YouTube. Whoops. But, yeah. Keep an eye on here. Always look for the LTATM hashtag, because I use that. It stands for a lot of things. It stands for Let's Talk About the Magic, Let's Talk About the Madness, Let's Talk About the Music, Let's Talk About the Mucklucks, Let's Talk About the Midterms, Let's Talk About the Mighty Ducks. I don't know. It can stand for anything. But it pretty much stands for me. So if you see LTATM, look for me. If you don't see me attached to it, I don't know if it's worth watching or listening to. And if it's from out of Tacoma, Washington, you definitely want to avoid it. Not that there's not great people that live there, but there's a couple of really not great people that live there as well, who have radio shows. So don't bother with them. Don't bother with them at all. Anyway, that's it. I'm going to get out of here. Have a good night. I'll see you folks next time.